Where were we? Okay.
English education.
Yeah, very good. At least someone remembers it. Good. So, yeah, we were discussing modern Indian culture. So, along with many other countries of Europe, all Britishers also came to India. As in the beginning, East India Company was along with other East Indian companies, French East Indian Company, Dutch East Indian Company. In the same way, there was a company from England, British East Indian Company or English East Indian Company. So all of them they came to India to do business with India, and because of their ability or politics or planning or army and ammunition, for whatever reason, they have uh, captured Indian. Yeah, rule number 85. Please don't unmute your mic until unless it is required. So with their planning or military or whatever, they have captured the India. Almost they have eliminated the competition. So all other East India companies, East India Company of Dutch or East India Company of French, they left the India, and 99% was 19% of India was under the direct or indirect control of British East India Company. Then British government, seeing the riches of East India Company and the profits that the East India Company employees are earning, they were also interested, and they said they directly did not say that we are going to take care of India or Indian administration. You need not to do anything. They never said this, but slowly, step by step way method, they started in the year 1773, and by 1857, but that is in almost 80 years or 90 years, they have captured or they have taken control of India and Indian political system. Now, there was no East India Company. Any company can do business with India. Any British company can do business with India. And the aim of Britishers was to get financially benefited. They were never interested doing any good to Indian people or India. Whatever they have done, whatever good they have done, are good things like introducing railways, introducing postal, introducing telegraph, introducing India education system. For all these things are done for their advantage only. For example, along with the British rulers or East India Company, the Christian missionaries also came to India. Christian missionaries, their sole aim, even if you see, even today, they are working towards the conversions, religious conversions. They want to convert people from other religions to Christianity. So in those days also, Christian missionaries came to India and they were trying to convert the people. But to get converted, first of all, they should know what is Christianity. They should know what is written in Bible. So people, Christian missionaries started uh, teaching English. So to make the people study Bible, to understand what is there in Bible, to understand Christianity, they thought first people should have knowledge of English. So these English missionaries started English schools in India. That's how we people started learning English, and we came to know the Western culture. We have understood the Western culture. It is actually a thing which they have not planned, but unplanned things have also happened. They thought only people will be educated, they will be knowing English, and they'll read Bible, and they'll convert or they'll change their religion from Hinduism to Christianity, from Islam to Christianity. But they never thought that people, after learning the Western thought or Western ideology, they'll also demand for independence, or they'll also talk about the equality. They'll also talk about the equal powers are equally being treated. Or they'll also talk about religious freedom. They never thought this, but this has happened again in a period of 90 years. So that's how they introduced English education system. But we have used it in another way. We were blessed in disguise. And railways also, as I said, railways were actually introduced for the movement of their military from one place to other place. for the movement of their raw material from the place of uh, from harbors to the place of sale or the place of production to harbors. There were reasons, untold reasons behind everything. And there were many changes, like, as I said, cultural changes, religious beliefs. Okay, of course, in the beginning, if you take Vedic culture, as I said, language was very well developed, and in that particular Sanskrit language, we had huge literature which was explaining different things. Sometimes it was mathematics, sometimes it was law, sometimes it was penal code, sometimes it was mathematics, physics, philosophy, history. Different things were there. People used to study those things. Sometimes it was religion, because there was literature, huge literature, which explains as to what is Buddhistic idea, what is Jain idea, what is Charvaka philosophy, what is Hinduism, what are Vedas, what are Upanishads. So there was huge literature in Sanskrit. People used to study that. Languages, grammar, finance, mathematics, public administration, logic, as I said, astrology, astronomy, bhugola, khagola, rasayana. There are many things. Then Islam came, then people started learning Arabic, Islam and Islamic laws, and architecture, engineering, different things. But it doesn't mean that we never had knowledge of those things. We had, but we forgot, because we never try to understand the subject. We always just by heart it, superficial knowledge, that's all. We don't try to understand what is the essence, what is the gist. We don't have the habit of reading between the lines. So again, in the times of, I'm say, modern era, that is British rule, during the British rule also, many have just like that, they have studied the English education, they have learned English, and they have got some jobs. And there is another reason for introducing English education. As I said, the British East India Company and British government, they wanted cheap labor. So they have introduced English education in India, so that people can learn English and they can work with them. They can use these people for their work in their companies, in their organizations. So they were successful, but only for a brief period of time, that is 90 years. But still we have their impact on us. So whatever we are following today, the education system is British education system. We are not following any other kind of education system. The dressing sense, what we have is English dressing system. Of course, we have slight changes, and on some special occasions, we follow our traditional dressing styles. And food habits, we forget what we used to eat traditionally. Do we make ghee at home now? No, we buy it. But earlier, 100 years ago, people used to prepare it at home. Right? Do we have our traditional, do we prefer to eat our traditional foods? No. Even I don't prefer. I prefer pizza than chagnala. I prefer pizza than arsalu. I prefer burger than any other thing. It's common. So there are, even we don't prefer lemon water. We prefer Coke. We prefer thumbs up. So food habits, dressing habits, education, religious beliefs, everything has changed. As we have seen this change in medieval era, in the same way, in modern India also, because of the coming of Europeans and European thought and European beliefs, there were many changes. Okay, like the economy was, we were, before the coming of English people, the situation was not that worst, even though the rulers were Islam rulers. But still, because the striking difference between Islamic rulers and Europeans is, Islamic rulers, few of them, like Ghazni or Nadir Shah, they wanted to loot India, they wanted to take the riches of India. They came, they fought, they looted India, and were left the country. That's all. But many of them, like Mughals, like Tughlaqs, Sayyids, Lodis, Khiljis, all of them, they wanted to come to India, settle down, and they did so. They came to India, they fought with the people, they won the wars, and they have started ruling India. So they treated India as their own motherland, and people stayed in here. Religiously, they might have something good, something bad, that is a different thing, but there was no economic drain, there was no brain drain. But when the Europeans came to India, it was only economic drain, only brain drain, nothing else. Their intention from the beginning was not to settle down in India, Europeans' intention. They were only interested in the riches. They wanted to make their country super rich, and they were never bothered about the consequences as to what is happening in India, what is happening to Indians. They were never bothered about it. Are you listening to me, students? Are you online?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So they never bothered about these things. So the handicrafts are the industry, like as I said, we people Indians were very good in few things. Like we were famous in mathematics, we were very famous in astronomy, not astrology. There is a big difference between astronomy and astrology. Can you tell me as to what the difference is? I'm asking you, students. Rule number 76, Aditya, are you online?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Can you tell me as to what is the difference between?
I don't know, sir.
Okay. So can anyone? 64? 64, are you online? Yeah, can you tell me?
I don't know, sir.
Okay. So astronomy is, for example, I'll tell you. What do we people, what ISRO does, what NASA does, what they do?
Space research.
Yeah. So they are talking about, or they are calculating the trajectory path or path of celestial bodies. They are trying to know how the conditions are there, whether they are any, whether we can reach there, whether it is a sustainable, life sustainable environment is there or not. Like that, they are calculating different things of the celestial bodies. If you do that in a scientific way, that is called astronomy. Astrophysics is also a part of physics. Okay. Astrology is predicting. For example, now Indian Meteorological Department, what do they do? IMD, what they do? They predict as to when the cyclone is going to come in, and what places are going to be affected by this cyclone, like this. So they are just predicting it. In those days also, people used to predict as to when the rains will come, when to harvest, when to start tilling, when to sow the seeds. But people have understood it in a wrong sense, and they said Jyotisha is something which is irrational, illogical, which has got no meaning. Predicting future. It's not predicting future. It's not, of course, it is predicting future of a single individual. It is predicting the future. Now, what IMD does, Indian Meteorological Department, they also predict that on this day you will see this much rain in this place. Is it wrong? No, because their prediction is backed up with some scientific evidence, data. In the same way, astrology used to, and people used to use some calculations. Based on those calculations, or with the help of the science, they used to predict the things. And we people, we don't understand its original sense. Now we use it for some different reasons, things, and we say that it is nothing logical in it. And because we are rational, we have access to English education, we don't believe it. Let us say if you are not right cooking the rice and eating the raw rice, then it is your fault. You should know what to do with rice, how to use it, how to cook it, how to eat it. If you don't know, then whose fault is it? Is it the fault of rice or the producer of the rice? No. In the same way, Jyotisha was a different subject, but we have started using it in a wrong way, wrong sense, for wrong things. And we are saying that Jyotisha is not a science. It is utterly wrong. Now, coming back to the subjects, people were learning astronomy, astrology, mathematics, metallurgy. Did I talk about the pillar, iron pillar of Mehrauli? Students, do you know anything about the iron pillar of Mehrauli?
Yes, sir.
Okay. There is a place in Mehrauli, and say this Mehrauli is in Delhi, okay, where Qutub Minar stands. That place is known as Mehrauli. You might have heard Qutub Minar, about Qutub Minar.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, that is the bad thing about India. We don't know about iron pillar of Mehrauli, but we know about Qutub Minar. So this iron pillar, which is standing in open air, and say it's not protected from heat or from cold or from rain. It is in a open land. Okay. Just now they have the archaeology department or whoever is concerned. They have a fence of at least 1 meter or 2 meters. That's all. Not even 1 meter, I think. 1 or 2 feet high fence surrounding this iron pillar, so that people won't reach that pillar directly. But still it is in open. And this pillar is manufactured around 2000 years ago. And that pillar, iron pillar, which is standing in open air for the last 2000 years, is still standing. That means that what I'm trying to say is no rust, nothing, it's not damaged. And day by day it is becoming more strong, more soft. If you touch it, you don't feel as if you are touching some iron. You will feel something soft in that, but still it has got the strength of iron. You people are easy, you know. This is easy. Yeah. So can you imagine if we construct a building using the present technology, that is RCC, reinforced concrete cement? For how many days will that structure be strong? For how many years will that structure be strong? For 50 years, for 60 years, for 100 years? We use iron, no? Stainless, sorry, not stainless steel, but we use iron. 6 mm rods, 8 mm rods, 12 mm rods. But still they are not, they don't, I say durability is not there. You can imagine how efficient the people were who have, it's not that only one pillar, iron pillar, there are many other iron pillars which are manufactured with similar technology. There still no pillar is rusting, getting rust. So we were good at metallurgy. Not only I'm not just talking about one single pillar or few iron pillars. You take any temple in India, either there will be a image stone and say this one idol, or idol which is made up of other material, like different kinds of iron are using something as others. So this shows the knowledge of metallurgy. So from ages, Indians were good in metallurgy, mathematics, astrology, geography. We have Bhugola, Khagola, Ganita, and anyhow, as I said, from the times of Chandragupta Maurya and Chanakya, we people were really good in public administration, political science and economics and taxation, because the treatise which is written by Chanakya, Ardhashastra, people generally think that it is all about economics. No, it is not all about economics. It's a book which discusses many things. It discusses the taxation system, how it should be. It discusses how the public administration should be. It discusses how the recruitment procedures should be. So there are many things which are discussed in Ardhashastra. He named it as Ardhashastra. It doesn't mean it is all about Ardhika Shastra or economics. So he discussed many other things. So we had all these knowledge in India, but we ignored all this and we started pursuing English education. So there was a change in food habits, there was a change in dressing habits, there was a change in business. What happened to our business? We lost all Indian, I'm saying, whatever fields which were known for Indians, I'm saying, wherein Indians have made their mark. Like they used to manufacture, or what should I say? It was, yeah, they used to prepare some kind of saris which can be folded and put in a matchbacks. And say it was lengthy as a normal sari, but if we fold it, it can be accommodated in a matchbox, small matchbox. So you can imagine the knowledge of weavers or the capacity or skill of weavers. Handicrafts were there. In Indus Valley civilization itself, I talked about the godowns. When do we use godowns? Whenever we have to store something. When can we store something? Whenever we have much more available than our requirement. So when is it possible? Having excess things when we produce in excess. So in those days itself, people were having the knowledge of agriculture. They could produce more than their requirement, and they even stored it. They know the storage facilities. So we were good at many things, but Britishers, to be more specific, these Europeans, I mean to be more specific, Britishers, they have damaged all these handicrafts, our Indian cottage industry, or any other kind of technology or knowledge that was there with Indians, and they have repeatedly said that you people have no knowledge. Your past is it's all bullshit. I should not use this word, but it's all waste. Nothing is great in that in your past, and we blindly believed it. And they even wrote our history. They don't know India before and say 300 years or 400 years. They don't know how the Indian culture is, or what Indian culture is, what Indian history is, but they started writing Indian history, and we believed it. They don't know, they don't even know the Sanskrit, and say they never learned Sanskrit. For example, people like Max Muller, he never visited India, and he has written Indian history, and people take it as standard even till today. If I write a book about Gandhi and say that Gandhi is bad or Gandhi is good, how authentic I am? Because I have never seen Gandhi. I don't know. Whatever information is available to me through books or internet, basing on that I am writing something. So how can I be 100% authentic or correct? In the same way, Europeans, they never visited India, but they wrote Indian history. And the unfortunate thing is, but they, without any information or without the knowledge of Indians, they have taken many scrolls. Talapatra Grandalu, and I'm saying Talapatra Grandalu are writings on leaves. They'll take a specific kind of leaf from a specific tree, and they used to write. People used to write. So all that information, whatever they had, they wrote it on those leaves. Now those books, those scrolls, are those leaves, piles of leaves. We don't have them, but there are many such books and such writings which are there in British library, in European libraries. I recently found out a book which was actually printed by Banaras Hindu University somewhere around 1930s, which is not available in India, but it is available in somewhere British or American library. You can imagine, if we don't have knowledge, why should they be interested in our books, our old scrolls? Okay, so students, are you online? Are you listening?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you people are very calm. I don't know whether you are listening to me or doing your own work or sleeping something else. So I'll take attendance now. It is B. So 61, 62,
Present, sir.
63.
61 present, sir. 61 present.
Okay. 63,
6 present, sir.
64,
Present, sir.
65,
Present, sir.
66. ఏమైందండి అంత డౌట్ఫుల్ గా చెప్తున్నారు ప్రజెంట్ ఉన్నారు కదా అని డౌటా 65. Do you have any doubt whether you are present in the class or not? 65, are you online? 66,
Present, sir.
67, 68,
67 present, sir.
Present, sir. 68 present, sir.
Sir,
69.
67 also present.
Okay, 69,
69 present, sir.
70,
Present, sir.
71,
Present, sir.
72,
Present, sir.
73,
Yes, sir.
74,
Present, sir.
75,
Present, sir.
76,
Present, sir.
77,
Present, sir.
78,
Present, sir.
79,
79 present, sir.
80,
Present, sir.
81, okay,
Yes, sir.
82,
Present, sir.
83,
Present, sir.
84,
Present, sir.
85,
Present, sir.
86,
Present, sir.
87,
Present, sir.
88,
88 present, sir.
89,
89 present, sir.
90,
Yes, sir.
91,
Present, sir.
92,
Present, sir.
93,
Present, sir.
94,
Present, sir.
95.
Present, sir.
Okay, remaining attendance I'll take at the end. So, what were we discussing? Yeah, what happened after the advent of Europeans to India? Just a minute, students. Yeah, so sorry for the interruption. So we were talking about the Britishers and their impact on the society of on Indian society, how things have changed, and we have discussed about our handicrafts, our business, our education. Okay, how the society works. Now let us have a brief discussion. Many things have changed, and say whatever good practices were there in the beginning in the Vedic culture, we were having, and say people continued some of the practices, but many wicked people or many people who were only interested in their good, they have introduced many things which were wrong, which were not there originally, which were not said in anywhere in Vedas or in Upanishads, or which were not followed by the people of Vedic culture. So they started practicing different things, like they started neglecting girl childs. Women were not given the required status in the society. Actually, if you find, there were women who were educated in the Vedic culture itself. For example, Lopamudra, Indrani. Like, there were many women who even were treated as masters in Vedic knowledge. So it was never in Vedic culture a woman was neglected. If she wanted to study, she was allowed to study. If she had that knowledge, then definitely people used to share the knowledge with her. But as I say every time, that unless we deliberately take measures to control ourselves, let it be religion, let it be finance, let it be health, let it be society, anything, things will tend to go in wrong ways. We have to deliberately control them. But as I said, generally, you take any culture, any country, any religion, any place, people will not try to understand. Many of us will not try to understand that as to what exactly something means. We just try to by heart it, we just follow it blindly. These blind beliefs has given rise to many things which were not there in original Vedic culture. So people started neglecting a girl child, and people were not allowing women to study, or people practiced polygamy, that is marrying more than one woman. But whereas women were not allowed to marry more than one man. Okay, one man can marry 4 or 5 women, but one woman cannot marry 4 or 5 men. This is how the society was. So there were, and if husband dies, woman was also burnt alive along with the dead body of the husband. Sati Sagamana. Child marriages. Of course, marrying the boy and girl at a young age, they have their own reasons. Sometimes if you see that, you'll also feel, okay, I'm getting married at the age of 20, 21 is good thing. But this has understood in a wrong way, and people started marrying at the, getting the 8-year-old or 9-year-old child, a 11 years old child getting married with a 13-year-old boy or 14-year-old boy. These systems were not there. And even if you see Puranas or Vedas, or if you see the literature of that period, you will also find that women were given freedom to choose their husband. It's not that they have to marry whoever the father says. No, they were given freedom. So all such freedom, such liberal thinking, such ideology was lost, and people were discriminated based on their birth, caste. But earlier, in olden days, it was not like that. In Vedic culture, they never discriminated any person because of his birth. They discriminated, of course there was discrimination, but it was purely based on their knowledge. It was purely based on their usefulness to the society. It was purely based on their moral, ethical values. Okay, so such strong things have started in Hinduism, and Muslim community was also divided on the name of different things. In the beginning there was no division, but as the time passed on, you can find divisions in Islam also. And in Islam also, women were not given that status. For example, you see, men won't wear any parda or burqa, but women wear burqa or parda. And you can find this thing in Hindus also. If you go to Rajasthan, they have odhni, that means which is used to cover their face. Odhana ante kapkodam, odhni ante kapkunedi anantam. So they used something like their pallu or sari or a cloth to cover their face. So these things have, people started practicing these things. You will not find mention of these things anywhere in Vedic culture, which is actually we take as the base of Hinduism. Are you following me?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. And as I said, we never had a habit of writing the things in the beginning. That is why Vedas have got the name Shruti, because the person who has the knowledge of Vedas, he used to read it loudly, and the person who wants to learn it, he used to sit near to that person, and he used to listen it carefully as to how to pronounce it, where to stress, where to pronounce lightly, where it should be a lengthy pronunciation. Like that, he used to learn all those things. He used to hear, and then he used to by heart them, then he used to understand them, and he used to teach it to his next generation, let it be his son or let it be his student. That's how the knowledge was passed on from one generation to the other generation. That is why this knowledge, the Vedas, are called, they have another name, Shruti, because they were purely based on song. But after some time, they have understood the importance of writing, because Because of that, they started recording the things. But we were not having the knowledge of paper or any other thing, so we started writing on leaves. Some of them which we could protect, and many of them which we could not protect. And many of those scrolls were taken away by Europeans also. Germans have, French people have, English people have. If you go to London University, Oxford University Library or London Library, you will find many scrolls, precious scrolls in their libraries. If we don't have knowledge, why should they have our books? Okay, so printing press was introduced by English people, and because of this, there was a revolutionary change. And this has also helped the people, I'm saying Indians, who were very much interested in spreading the idea. Why? Because there were some areas where, like Bengal and Tamil Nadu, people were, they had, they were having access to English education, and they, after studying after knowing the Western thought, they were also demanding for home rule or independence. But these ideas, these beliefs, they were not spread to other regions. You take, for example, Central Province. So how to spread these ideas? Either the person has to go there and speak with many people as he can, or else if there is any possibility of writing it down, then he can write the same, his idea, in the form of a book, and this book can be printed, a number of copies, and a number of persons can read it. So this is actually used by Indians. Again, Britishers never thought that introducing this printing technology will be a boon for us Indians. Then people have also started spreading their ideas through different books. Their poetry, I don't know whether you have knowledge or not, but you take Indian revolution, any kind of revolution in India which has taken place, definitely they'll take support of this poetry, prose, and so they'll spread their ideas in the form of songs, in the form of books, in the form of stories. Writings will also help them spread their idea. This has happened in India also. Okay, so people started using different languages to spread their ideas. That's why if you observe, people were having knowledge of many languages in olden days. You take your grandfather or your great-grandfather, definitely they'll have minimum 3 languages. Even if they don't know English, they'll know at least Urdu, Hindi, Telugu. And many of those who are having access to minimum education, they'll definitely know Marathi, Kannada, Telugu, Hindi, Urdu. Minimum 5 languages was a common thing. Nowadays we know only 3 languages. That too, we are not perfect in those 3 languages. But I know my grandfather who was having knowledge of Urdu, Hindi, Telugu, working knowledge in English, and was also having knowledge of Marathi. So you take your ancestors, they'll definitely have minimum knowledge in 3 languages. And if they have minimum education, they'll definitely have knowledge of more than 3 languages. This is how the society was in the modern era, that is after the 18th century. This is how the conditions are. So we have completed successfully the first unit, and for your first internal examination, you will have first unit and second unit, which I am going to complete in next 4 or 5 sessions. Listening? Are you there?
Yes,
Yes, sir.
So what did I say just now? What did I say just now?
First unit is completed.
First internal?
First unit is completed. You told me.
First unit complete ayindane kaadu, inka konni vishayalu cheppandi. You will have first internal in your future. So for your first internal, I will be considering first 2 units, unit 1 and unit 2. That means you will be getting questions from unit 1 and unit 2. Okay?
Okay.
Yeah. I'll also upload the notes in Google Classroom. You can take the notes from there and be prepared. And in next 4 or 5 sessions, we'll complete the second unit also. So if you have any questions with regard to whatever we have discussed till now, and if there is any question which is not related to our subject but related to the Indian culture or Indian history, I am open to questions. You can ask me now. We still have almost 30 minutes. No questions? No doubts? You don't want to discuss anything? Good. I'll take attendance, then I'll start second unit. So 96?
Sir.
97?
Present, sir.
98? 99?
Present, sir. 99.
100?
Present, sir. 100.
101?
Present, sir.
102? 103?
Present, sir.
104?
Present, sir.
103 ఎవరండి మీ పేరేంటి?
సాయి సిద్ధార్థ.
సాయి సిద్ధార్థ. ఓకే సాయి సిద్ధార్థ. 104? 104? Okay. 105?
Present, sir.
106? 107? 108? 109? 110?
Present, sir.
111?
Present, sir.
112?
Present, sir.
113?
Present, sir.
114? 115? 116?
Yes, sir.
117?
Present, sir.
118?
Present, sir.
119?
Yes, sir.
120?
Present, sir.
Yeah. So let us start the second unit.
Present, sir.
96. Is that
Present.
96? Yeah, okay. I have given you attendance.
Okay, sir.
Okay. So the second unit is all about languages and literature. So in second unit, we will be discussing as to what languages do we have in India. Of course, it's not possible to discuss all the languages, but we'll be discussing about some main or important languages. Like we'll discuss about Sanskrit, we'll discuss about Urdu, we'll discuss about Hindi, Bengali, Tamil, Malayalam, Kannada, Marathi. Okay. So, and we'll also discuss as to what kind of literature. Again, I'm saying it's not a language class. I'm not a linguist. So it will not be an elaborate discussion on languages and literature available in those languages, but we'll try to get minimum information as to what is the variety or how many languages do we have in India, and what is the literature that is there in India, whether it is the languages are rich of literature or not. Because let me ask you a few questions. Can anyone tell me as to how many languages? Okay, students, just listen to me. I'm asking you as to how many languages are mentioned in the Indian Constitution.
22 languages, according to the
So again, you are keeping quiet. This is not good, students. I am asking you. Okay. Yeah. So that's why the AICT wants you people to know about the languages and the literature that is available in them. So how many of you studied Indian Constitution? So rule number 61. This is not good. So 61, are you there? If you are not responding, I am not going to give you attendance. Okay, 61 will not get attendance for today. Okay. 62, are you online?
Yes, sir.
Then I am asking you all question that have you studied Indian Constitution? I don't mean that I am not asking you whether you have studied original Indian Constitution book. No.
In first semester we had, sir.
Yeah, that's what I am asking you. Okay, so it seems only 162 has studied Indian Constitution in first semester. How about others? It seems you have not studied Indian Constitution in your first semester. Rule number 120, 119, 118.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, have you studied Indian Constitution in your first semester? That's what I am asking you.
Yes, sir.
Students, you are irritating me, please. I'm asking you, I'm shouting out your roll numbers, but still you are not responding. This is not the way. This is not classroom etiquette. Is rule number... Yeah.
Studied, sir.
We studied, sir.
Okay, then what is wrong in saying that yes, we have studied? So rule number 120, are you online?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Have you studied Indian Constitution? I'm asking again the same question.
Yes, sir. I was studied, sir.
Yeah. So Indian Constitution in its 8th schedule mentions languages that are recognized by Indian Constitution. You know that there are 22 languages which are identified. Telugu is one of them. Tamil, Telugu, Malayalam, Kannadam, Hindi. Like this we have 22 languages. And all these languages have literature in them. What do I mean by literature? So 119?
Yes, sir.
Oh, you are online. Okay. So 118?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. When I am saying almost all the languages have huge literature, what do I mean?
Like Sanskrit.
కాదండి. ఐఎమ్ ఆస్కింగ్ యూ, నేను ఏం అడుగుతున్నానంటే ప్రతి ఒక్క లాంగ్వేజ్ లో కూడా చాలా లిటరేచర్ ఉంది అంటున్నాను. అంటే ఏంటి దాని అర్థం? లిటరేచర్ అంటే ఏంటి? Should I tell you, should I explain the things in Telugu?
Yes, sir.
Don't hesitate. Just tell me if you are not able to follow. Then I can explain the same in Telugu also. మీకు ఇంగ్లీష్లో అర్థమైతలేదు అనుకుంటే తెలుగులో చెప్పగలను. మిమ్మల్ని క్వశ్చన్స్ అడగడం అంత వరస్ట్ ఇంకేం లేదనిపిస్తుంది. ఏది అడిగినా కామ్గా ఉంటున్నారు తప్ప దానికి సమాధానమే లేదు. యు ఆర్ నాట్ రెస్పాండింగ్ వెన్ ఎవర్ ఐఎమ్ ఆస్కింగ్ యూ ఎనీథింగ్. ఐఎమ్ ఆస్కింగ్ యూ అ సింపుల్ క్వశ్చన్ వేర్ ఇన్ యూ కెన్ ఆన్సర్ బై సేయింగ్ ఎస్ ఆర్ నో. That is also not possible for you people. I wonder then what you people can do. How you are going to attend your interview? Will you keep quiet there also?
No, sir.
Then what is wrong? Why you people are not speaking up? Why you are not responding? Okay. So we have many languages, but 22 languages are recognized by the Constitution of India. The mother of all languages is Sanskrit. If you people just keep quiet like this, then I can finish second unit in 1 or 2 classes maximum, because I'll just go on speaking as to what is important, and other things you will not come to know. Until unless you listen, you properly respond, and you properly ask, you will not get much more information. Okay, so there are different languages in India, and as I said, Sanskrit is the mother of all languages. And Sanskrit is not only the mother of Indian languages, but it is one of the most ancient and important languages. If you study the world history, or if you consider the linguistics, then language, Sanskrit language is treated as an important language in Asian languages, Asian family of languages. Okay, so many languages can find their origin in Sanskrit language, and it has good relation with Mundarian languages, group of languages also. So, as I said, Sanskrit is the mother of many Indian languages. Let us begin our discussion with Sanskrit. The name Sanskritam, I'm saying Sanskrit is not correct. The original name is Sanskritam, but in English it's a style. As we don't say Ganga, we say Ganges in English in the same way. Even though it should be called Sanskritam, we call it Sanskrit, but Sanskritam is the correct one. And the meaning of Sanskritam, I've told you while discussing culture, that culture comes from a Latin word cultus, which means cultivation or improvisation. Okay. In this way, Sanskritam also comes from Samskriti or Samskriti Karinchabadina Bhasha, language which is a culture or which is structured, which is refined, I can say. Okay, so Sanskrit is such a language, and because of its refinedness, its structure, it got the name Sanskritam. A bhasha సంస్కృతీకరించబడింది కాబట్టి, అది ప్యూరిఫై చేయబడింది కాబట్టి, దానికి పర్ఫెక్ట్ స్ట్రక్చర్ గ్రామర్ ఉంది కాబట్టి దానికి సంస్కృతం అనే పేరు వచ్చింది. అంతే తప్ప ఏదో ఉట్టిగా అట్లా పేరు పెట్టాలని పెట్టలేదు. సో ది నేమ్ సంస్కృతం ఇస్ నాట్ గివెన్ టు దట్ లాంగ్వేజ్ జస్ట్ నాట్ లైక్ దట్. ఇట్ ఈస్ ఫర్ ఇట్స్ ప్యూరిటీ, ఫర్ ఇట్స్ స్ట్రక్చర్డ్నెస్, ఫర్ ఇట్స్ స్టాండర్డ్. ఓకే, and this Sanskrit language, as I said, is rich of literature. You will find sciences, that is knowledge of various subjects like mathematics, astrology, astronomy, chemistry. Then the language itself is structured. You will find grammar. Again, we have Shadangas. We'll discuss about this latter parts of the chapter. So you have different parts which will make your language more robust, more structured. So we have all those things. 800 years before the birth of Christ, there was a scholar by name Panini. He wrote a book on Sanskrit grammar, which is known as Ashtadhyayi. There were 8 chapters in that book, so he named it as Ashtadhyayi. And you can imagine now that 800 years before the birth of Christ, that is 2800 years ago, if we calculate it from today, then 2800 years ago, we had a book on grammar. So you can imagine how old Sanskrit is. And that book, Panini's Ashtadhyayi, is referred by many scholars, and they have mentioned it in their writings. Even some scholars, some writers, they studied the Panini's Ashtadhyayi and they have given a treatise on this Panini's Ashtadhyayi. For example, you take Patanjali's Mahabhashyam, is an explanatory notes, a treatise on Panini's Ashtadhyayi. So you not only have grammar, but you have a book on grammar. Excuse me. So again, you find, for example, if you read a textbook and if you don't understand, what will you do? Do you have any other option apart from going to teacher? If you want to know it on your own, how can you understand the text? Original
Dictionary.
Text. Not only dictionary, you will have a guide which explains the same thing. For example, you might have used guides in your intermediate, wherein the same whatever is mentioned or explained in textbook will be explained in a simple way using a simple language. They'll explain as to what that is. In the same way, if Panini's Ashtadhyayi is the original text, then you have a guide-like thing which explains as to what is mentioned in Panini's Ashtadhyayi. That is Mahabhashyam, Patanjali's Mahabhashyam. As a book on grammar. And even before this Ashtadhyayi and Mahabhashyam and Ashtadhyayi, we have a huge literature in Sanskrit. What do we have in Sanskrit? We have Vedas in Sanskrit. We have Aranyakas, we have Brahmanas. The Samhita part is also in Sanskrit. So all Vedas are in Sanskrit, Upanishads are in Sanskrit, Itihasas are in Sanskrit, Puranas are in Sanskrit. Even if you take the Chanakya's Ardhashastra, he has also written in Sanskrit. So before Panini's Ashtadhyayi and after Panini's Ashtadhyayi, there were many writings. People like famous poets like Kalidasa, Bharavi, Dandi, Bhartrhari, they have also written many things in Sanskrit. It's not just simple poetry, but books on medicine like Charka Samhita, Sushrita Samhita. Books on medicine are also available in Sanskrit. And books on mathematics like Aryabhatiyam is in Sanskrit. Varahamihira wrote many books on space sciences, that is astronomy, in Sanskrit. So you will find the books on science, mathematics, or various sciences. And you will find books on medicine, you will find books on law, you will find books on penal code like Manudharma Shastra. It is penal code of India. Now we have a separate penal code which is actually written by Britishers. This penal code, whatever we are following now, is not originally Indian. It is British penal code, which we are using it, right? So originally there were many other penal codes like Parashara Smriti, Manusmriti, Narada Smriti. So we have law in Sanskrit, we have sciences in Sanskrit, we have mathematics in Sanskrit, we have grammar in Sanskrit, we have normal poetry, prose and poetry in Sanskrit, we have sayings. And so have you ever heard about Vemana Shatakam? What is Vemana Shatakam? What information do you get in that Vemana Shatakam?
It's a poetry, sir. Poems.
Okay, poems. What do they talk about? Yeah, what do they talk about?
General knowledge.
Yeah, Vemana Shatakaలలో ఏం చెప్పబడుందండి? ఫర్ ఎగ్జాంపుల్ చిన్న వేమన శతకం ఉంది. కానివాని చేత కాసు విషమిచ్చి వెంట తిరుగువాడు వెర్రివాడు, పిల్లి తిన్న కోడి పిలిచిన పలుకున విశ్వదాభిరామ వినరవేమ. ఏంటి దాని అర్థం? దాంట్లో ఏం చెప్పబడింది? What is it talking about, or what information is it giving to you? Is it talking about a cat and a hen? No, it's talking about, as somebody rightly observed, it is talking about those general things, and these general things are explained in such a way that we learn something. For example, if there is a hen and that hen is, or a cock or hen, whatever it is eaten by a cat. So as we tame, as we have pet animals, generally we have dogs, we call them, if we call it by name, it will come. In the same way, hens will also, people they tame them and so they name them, and if you call by that name, that will also come. So once if it is eaten by hen, will it come? Even if you call it, it will not. In the same way, if you give money as a loan to someone who is not a good person, then it's gone. Your money will not come back to you, and so you will not get back your money. You leave about the interest, you will not get your principal also. So he is telling you a good thing about the society, whatever he has observed, and that too is explaining it in a simple way. That is Shatakam, Niti Shatakam antaru. Andulo evo manchi vishayalu cheppabadtayi. He will speak about few good things. So you have Niti Shatakam in Sanskrit also, many Niti Shatakas. The famous one is Bhartrhari Niti Shatakam. You have writings, let us say history, as written in the form of novels, Malavika Agnimitram, Mruchakatikam. These are historic novels. You will find normal novels like Megha Sandesham. You will find history, you will find science, you will find law, you will find penal code, you will find Niti Shatakam, that is speaking about the good things as to how to be in the society, how one should not be. All these kinds of writings are there in Sanskrit language. Okay, so Sanskrit is rich of these literature and so different kinds of literature. Even religion is explained in and so using the Sanskrit language. Now you see Vedas, based on Vedas only Hinduism developed. So religion explained. Even Buddhism, Jainism, they not only used Pali, they have also used Sanskrit. Mahayana text and say Mahayana Buddhism explained its ideology in using Sanskrit. Okay, so there are many books. There is another book by name Lalita Vistara, which is also a Buddhistic book, and Rasaratnakara, written by Nagarjuna, a famous saint, Buddhist scholar, I should say, is all about chemistry. Manasa Ullasa is another book, old book, 800 years old book. Do you know what does it talk about, Manasa Ullasa? What information will you get? Name itself explains. Manasa Ullasa. Manasuku ullasam కలిగించి అంటే food. It talks about various dishes, vegetarian as well as non-vegetarian dishes. So we have huge literature in Sanskrit, that too a variety of literature. We have books on food, we have books on religions, we have books on science, we have books on mathematics, we have books on law, we have books on history, we have general books, we have prose, we have poetry, we have what should I say, books on history, we have books explaining the culture. We have books explaining history, the dynasties of various periods. For example, we have Rajatarangini, which speaks about the various dynasties which have ruled Kashmir. Okay, Prithviraj Raso is a book which speaks about Prithviraj, as to what happened to Prithviraj. Right. So we will discuss about these things. As I said, it will not be an elaborate discussion because it's not possible. So we'll have a glimpse of all these things. Let us begin with Vedas because Vedas are the most ancient literature that is available in India. You take any language, Vedas are the most ancient, most old. So Vedas are also known as, actually Veda is a Sanskrit word which means, or which comes from a Sanskrit syllable vid, which means knowledge. What is mentioned in Vedas? Can anyone tell me? వేదాలలో ఏమి చెప్పబడింది ఎవరైనా ఊహించగలరా, చెప్పగలరా? It's a straight question to you all.
All things about earth or about world.
About ఏదో ఒకటి క్లియర్ గా చెప్పండి, భయపడకండి, హెజిటేట్. నేనేం కొట్టను, లేదా మీరేం తప్పు చెప్తే పెద్దగా మీకు ₹1,00,00,000 ఫైన్ ఏం పడదు, నష్టమేం లేదు. ఇఫ్ యు ఆర్ రైట్ దెన్ ఓకే, ఇఫ్ యు ఆర్ రాంగ్ యూ కెన్ కరెక్ట్ యువర్ సెల్ఫ్. యా, నాకు వినబడేటట్టు కొంచెం మెల్లగా చెప్పండి, కొంచెం మెల్లగా వినబడేటట్టు. మెల్లగా అంటే వాయిస్ తక్కువ అని కాదు, స్లోగా గట్టిగా అర్థమయ్యేటట్టు.
Astrology sir, predictions or what?
Wrong. No, wrong. Living. Okay, knowledge, right? Knowledge ante em knowledge? Somebody said something I don't understand. 735 అంటే మీ నంబర్ ఎక్కడ ఉంటుంది? somewhere around 99 వరకు ఉండొచ్చు. Sorry, okay. So Vedalalo Jyotisham, it's not Jyotisha or predictions which are there in the Vedas. Somebody said it is knowledge. Okay, what knowledge is it? Is it talking about chemistry, physics, mathematics? What? Accountancy, economics? Okay, so yes, it is knowledge, but whatever people have understood, they have observed the nature, and whatever their understanding is, they have mentioned it in the form of Haimansa. We don't understand those Haimans and we simply say that they are mantras. By chanting them, something good will happen. Of course, something good will happen. Do you know that mantramu, and what does it mean by mantra? Mantra is actually a Sanskrit word. What does it mean? What do the Sanskrit dictionaries say the meaning of mantra is? Mananat trayate iti mantraha. That is the meaning given in dictionaries, Sanskrit dictionaries. So what does it mean? By chanting which mananat, by chanting or by hearting, repeatedly if you chant it, you will by heart it. Okay, trayate iti mantraha. By chanting which repeatedly, by hearting which, you will be saved. That is what is mantra. That is the meaning of mantra. Now you tell me, what do you know any mantra?
Sir.
I am telling you the meaning of mantra. As per the Sanskrit language, mantra means mananat trayate iti mantra. By chanting which you will be rescued, you will be saved. That is what is called mantra. So now tell me, do you know any mantra?
Sir.
What? Just tell me any mantra that you know. I'll tell you. All of you know many mantras. For example, you know a plus b whole square is equal to what?
A square plus 2ab plus b square.
Right? So this is, if you learn it, and if you get this question, or if you have to solve any problem using this formula in any exam, then you will be saved because you will get marks, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
That is what a mantra is. So you know many mantras which will save you. That is what is the meaning of mantra, but we don't understand it because we don't know Sanskrit, and we don't try to understand it. Even you might have studied physics, you might have studied chemistry, you might have studied English, geography, blah, blah, blah. But have you ever tried to understand as to what is it talking about, what the teacher is trying to explain? No, we are interested in marks, so what we'll do is we'll just by heart it. That is not going to save us. That's what our ancestors have believed. That is why they said, Mananat trayate iti mantraha. By learning which, by hearting which, you will be saved. That is what is mantra. So mathematics is full of mantras, physics is full of mantras, engineering is full of mantras. Right? Are you following me, friends?
Sir.
Yeah. So we'll continue this.
Chemistry class, sir. Sorry to interrupt.
No problem. Okay, I will continue in my next class. So we have started second unit and we'll finish off in next 3 or 4 sessions. So thank you, class.
So thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.